My name is Chloe Harper. I'm 30 years old, and on Christmas morning, I learned how quickly a family can turn a holiday into a public execution. At 7:12 a.m., while my son was taping crooked bows onto 3 homemade presents, my phone buzzed with a text from my father. "Don't come. We're done pretending you're part of this family. You're dead to us." I read it twice, waiting for the words to change. They didn't. So, I loaded the gifts into my old SUV anyway and drove to the waterfront house where I had spent every Christmas as a child. I thought shame had made him type those words. I thought maybe face to face someone would remember a little boy was involved. Instead, my mother opened the door and screamed. I said, "No, get off my property." My siblings were inside laughing loud enough for my son to hear. A beer can flew past my shoulder and hit the porch rail. "Security," my sister shouted. "We have a trespasser. Call 911. Then my mother threw our presents into the wet yard and stomped on them like trash. Neighbors came out with phones raised. My father stood behind her and said, "Don't come back until you're not a walking embarrassment. Actually, just don't come back at all." I looked at the crushed paper, took my son's hand, smiled, and said, "You'll all regret this." 2 weeks later, at 11:30 p.m., my phone exploded. 53 desperate messages, 68 missed calls, and voicemails full of sobbing and screaming. Before I tell you what he said and what happened after I walked out, tell me what time is it for you right now and where are you watching from? I want to know how far this story travels. I had spent most of my adult life being called difficult by people who only loved me when I was useful. In Beaufort, North Carolina, the Harper name meant shrimp boats, dock leases, family photos in the local paper, and old coastal respectability that looked clean from the street and rotten behind closed doors. My grandfather built Harper Landing from 2 weather-beaten slips and a bait shack before it became a working marina with a fuel dock, repair shed, cold storage building, and a strip of waterfront every developer in Carteret County wanted. I grew up learning tide charts before multiplication tables. I could tie knots faster than my brother, balance receipts better than my sister, and spot a leaking fuel line before my father noticed the smell. But none of that mattered after I got pregnant at 22 and refused to give my baby up just because my parents thought single motherhood stained the family name. My father, Richard Harper, called it the first public humiliation. My mother, Elaine, called it a season of consequences. My sister Brooke called it typical Chloe drama. My brother Mason said nothing unless silence benefited him. The final break came 2 years later when a deckhand got hurt at the marina, and my father asked me to remember things carefully for the insurance report. He wanted me to say the safety railing had been repaired before the accident. It hadn't. I refused to lie, and the claim cost him more money than he could forgive. That was when I stopped being his daughter and became his favorite warning story. I left the family business, studied at night, and became a maritime insurance claims investigator. That job taught me how families hide money, how businesses bury liability, and how powerful people panic when a document has their signature on it. My son, Eli, knew none of that. He knew Grandpa had a big house near the marina. He knew Grandma mailed him socks every December. He knew Aunt Brooke posted perfect family photos about tradition, faith, and gratitude. He did not know those same people disgusted him like an unpaid debt. That Christmas morning, when I got the text, I should have protected him by staying home. But pain can make you bargain with reality. I told myself my father was angry, not heartless. I told myself my mother might see Eli holding handmade ornaments and soften. The drive to Beaufort took 40 minutes. Eli wore his red sweater with the crooked reindeer. The one he said looked brave but confused. He kept asking whether Grandpa still had the model ships and whether Grandma would make hot chocolate. I smiled at the windshield because I couldn't trust my face. When we turned onto Harbor Bell Road, I saw too many cars outside my parents' house. Family cars. A black luxury SUV, a white pickup with a developer logo, and a silver sedan I recognized from the county courthouse. Something about that lineup tightened my stomach. Christmas morning was never just Christmas in my father's house. There was always a transaction under the table, always a handshake in the hallway. Eli whispered, "Wow, everybody came." I parked behind the wet hedges, grabbed the gifts, and reminded myself to breathe. I did not know they were celebrating the sale of Harper Landing. I did not know my father had used my absence to erase my name from a trust my grandfather created before he died. I did not know the only thing standing between my family and a 7-figure waterfront deal was a clause buried in documents they thought I would never find. All I knew was that my son was walking up those porch steps with hope in both hands, and I was about to watch my family crush it in front of witnesses. The front door opened before I knocked twice. My mother stood there in a cream sweater, pearls at her throat, lipstick perfect, face twisted with the kind of disgust people save for something dead on the sidewalk. Behind her, warm light spilled across polished floors. I smelled cinnamon, ham, coffee, and expensive candles. I heard laughter stop, then restart in whispers. Eli lifted his gift bag and said, "Merry Christmas, Grandma." My mother did not look at him. She looked over my shoulder, checking how much damage my presence had already done. I said, "No," she hissed. "Get off my property." I kept my voice low. "Mom, please, it's Christmas. Eli made you something." She slapped the gift bag out of my hand so hard one ornament rolled across the porch and broke against the step. Eli flinched. That sound did something to me. It was small, just glass cracking, but it felt like an answer from God. Stop begging these people to be human. Then Brooke appeared behind my mother in a red satin pajama set, holding a beer even though it wasn't 9 a.m. "Oh my gosh," she said loudly. "She actually came. I told you she would." Chloe can't understand boundaries unless someone puts them in writing and notarizes them. Mason laughed near the fireplace. I saw cousins, in-laws, and people I didn't recognize trying to peek without appearing involved. Eli whispered, "Mom, did I do something?" I put one hand on his shoulder. "No, baby." That was when the beer can flew. It didn't hit me, but cold liquid splashed across my sleeve. Brooke threw up both hands and shouted, "Security, we have a trespasser." Somebody called 911 before she starts stealing silverware. A neighbor across the street stepped onto her porch with her phone raised. Then another. Then a man walking his dog slowed down and started recording. My father finally came to the door. Richard Harper always knew how to make an entrance. White hair combed back, expensive watch, navy sweater. The expression of a man who believed every room owed him obedience. He looked at Eli, then at me, and somehow made both of us feel smaller. "You were told not to come," he said. My voice stayed steady. "You told your daughter she was dead to you on Christmas morning. I wanted to make sure you meant it." His jaw tightened. "Don't perform morality on my porch. You made your choices. You humiliated this family. You refused to respect me. Now you want to drag that boy here and use him as emotional leverage." My mother grabbed the remaining gifts and threw them into the yard. The little wooden lighthouse Eli had painted cracked down the middle. Then she stepped on the paper angel he had made for her slowly and on purpose. "Return this dollar store garbage," she said. "We don't need pity crafts from a child you should have raised better." Something inside me went quiet. Not numb. Clear. I saw the neighbors filming. The developer truck. Brooke smirking. Mason avoiding my eyes. My father standing like a judge. And my son trying not to cry because he thought crying would make things worse. I bent down, picked up the broken lighthouse, and wiped mud from the base. Then I looked past my father into the house. On the dining table beside the silver punch bowl were folders stamped with Bankside Coastal Development. A bottle of champagne sat in an ice bucket. Brooke followed my gaze and stepped sideways. But it was too late. "So that's what this is," I said quietly. My father's face changed for half a second. Not guilt, alarm. "You need to leave," he said gladly. I took Eli's hand. My mother shouted, "Don't come back until you're not a walking embarrassment." My father added louder for the cameras, "Actually, just don't come back at all." I stopped at the bottom step and turned. I did not scream. I did not cry. I smiled because public cruelty creates public evidence. "You'll all regret this," I said. Brooke laughed. Mason muttered, "Sure." "Chloe." My father slammed the door. Eli and I walked to the SUV, past the ruined gifts, past the phones, past the developer truck shining under the rain. I buckled my son into the back seat. He waited until I closed the door before he broke. "Why did Grandma stomp on my angel?" he asked. I sat behind the wheel and let one breath shake out of me. "Because some people mistake cruelty for power," I said. "But that doesn't mean they get to keep it." Then I drove away from the house that raised me. And for the first time in years, I did not feel homeless. I felt dangerous. I did not go home first. I drove to the public boat ramp behind the old Coast Guard station and parked facing the water. Eli cried himself into exhausted silence, still clutching the broken lighthouse. I wanted to call someone and fall apart, but motherhood does not always give you that luxury. Sometimes it hands you a trembling child, a wet steering wheel, and a decision. I told Eli we were getting pancakes at the diner. He ate 3 bites, then asked if he could take the rest home. I said yes. I did not tell him my mind was moving through everything I had seen: the folders, the champagne, the developer's truck, my father's alarm. As a maritime insurance claims investigator, I knew people reveal fraud in small things: a missing log, a rushed signature, a celebration before a deal closes. My father had not disowned me for emotional reasons. He needed me absent. After I got Eli settled at home with a movie, I opened my laptop at the kitchen table. The county register of deeds showed Harper Landing. Marina had been transferred into a family trust 15 years earlier, 2 months before my grandfather died. My father always said Grandpa left the marina to the family, which meant Richard controlled it and everyone else thanked him. But public records told a different story. The trust name was the Elias Harper Working Waterfront Trust, named after my grandfather. My father was trustee. But a second document was listed: Amendment C. It wasn't digitized. The note said the original was held by the Maritime Heritage Archives at the Beaufort Historical Society. My grandfather had donated half his papers there: boat logs, letters, and photographs from the early shrimping days. I called the Historical Society expecting voicemail. An old man answered. His name was Walter Finch, a retired harbor master who volunteered at the archives. When I asked about Amendment C, he sighed like he had been waiting years. "Your grandfather left instructions," he said, "if Richard ever tried to sell the waterfront outside the family. We were to release the sealed packet to any direct descendant who asked for it." My mouth went dry. "My father is selling." Walter paused. "Bankside Coastal Development filed a purchase option last week. Closing is scheduled for January 9th, 2 weeks away." "Can I see the packet?" I asked. "Tomorrow morning." "Bring identification. And Chloe." "Yes. Come alone first. There are things in that packet your father never wanted you to understand." I barely slept. The next morning, I dropped Eli at a holiday camp and drove to the archives. Walter Finch was thin, white-bearded, and sharp-eyed with hands that looked like they had tied rope in every storm on the Atlantic. He placed a flat archival box on the table. Inside were photographs, trust amendments, a handwritten letter from my grandfather, and a small red ledger with salt stains on the cover. My grandfather's letter began, "If Chloe is reading this, then Richard has forgotten that land is not legacy unless it protects the people who come after us." I had to stop and breathe. Amendment C said the marina could not be sold, leased long-term, or redeveloped without written consent from all living lineal descendants of Elias Harper, including minor descendants through a guardian if necessary. It also named me as successor compliance trustee if any sale involved environmental disclosures, fuel systems, shoreline alteration, or insurance claims. Grandpa had written that I had a spine built for storms. Then I opened the red ledger. It contained maintenance records, fuel tank inspections, notes about contamination under the repair shed, and warnings that any sale without disclosure could trigger penalties. My father had known. He had known the property had environmental obligations. He had known Eli counted as a descendant. He had known I was named in the trust for exactly this kind of sale. That was why he needed me publicly erased before January 9th, if I was dead to the family. Maybe he thought he could claim I had abandoned interest. Maybe he had already forged something. Walter handed me one more envelope. Inside was a photocopy of a consent form filed with the purchase option. My signature was on it. Eli's name was listed as not applicable. No recognized issue. I stared at the fake signature as the room tilted. My father had not only rejected my son, he had legally pretended my son did not exist. Walter watched my face. "Now you know," he said. I folded the papers slowly. "No," I said. "Now they're going to know I know." The first person I called was Marisol Vega, an attorney in Morehead City known for trust litigation and making arrogant men regret underestimating paperwork. She met me that afternoon. Her office had no holiday decorations except a ceramic snowman on a filing cabinet, which somehow made her feel more dangerous. She read everything without interrupting. The trust amendment, my grandfather's letter, the ledger copies, the forged consent, the purchase option, and the neighbor videos already online under captions like "Christmas drama at the Harper house." When she finished, she removed her glasses and said, "Chloe, this is not a family disagreement. This is attempted fraud, potential forgery, breach of fiduciary duty, and possibly environmental non-disclosure connected to a commercial waterfront sale." The words should have frightened me. Instead, they studied me. Pain is confusing. Evidence is not. By the next morning, Marisol had filed a notice of disputed authority against the property, requested an emergency injunction to stop the closing, and sent preservation letters to my father, Bankside Coastal Development, the title company, and the bank. She also contacted a guardian ADM because Eli, as a minor descendant, had legal interest my father could not erase with not applicable. "Do not warn your family beyond what I send through counsel," she told me. "Do not threaten them. Do not negotiate alone. And do not delete a single message." That mattered almost immediately. My father called at 6:18 p.m. I let it go to voicemail. Then my mother. Then Brooke. Then Mason. Finally, Brooke texted, "You pathetic psycho. You embarrassed yourself on Christmas and now you're trying to steal our inheritance. Everyone knows you've always been jealous." A minute later, she posted a clipped Christmas video showing only me standing in the yard while she shouted about trespassing. The caption said, "Some people use children to manipulate family during the holidays. Pray for boundaries." Within an hour, church ladies, former classmates, marina customers, and distant relatives were commenting. Some called me unstable. Some said I should be ashamed. Brooke had always been good at dressing cruelty in moral language, but she forgot what I did for a living. I documented claims. I built timelines. Incomplete footage collapses when full context appears. I contacted Mrs. Tally, the neighbor across the street. She had the entire video. My mother screaming, the beer can, the gifts in the yard, my father calling me a walking embarrassment. Eli crying with his broken lighthouse. She sent it with a message. I didn't post because I didn't want to hurt the boy. But your family is lying. Use this if you need it. I sent it to Marisol. I did not post it. Not yet. The next day, my father's attorney accused me of harassment, trespass, defamation, elder abuse, and malicious interference with a legitimate business transaction. Marisol laughed, then drafted a response demanding proof of my alleged consent, proof of notification to all descendants, proof of environmental disclosures, proof of trustee authority, and original ink copies of every signed document. That evening, my father left a voicemail worth saving. Listen to me. Chloe, you don't understand what you're playing with. That sale keeps this family afloat. If you destroy it, I will make sure everyone in this town knows exactly what you are. I will tell them you trapped some man with a baby, that you lied during the Marina claim years ago, that you've been unstable since you were a girl. I will bury you before I let you ruin me. I listened once, then forwarded it to Marisol. She replied with 4 words. Excellent. Keep everything. For the next 10 days, my life became a split screen. By day, I made breakfast for Eli, helped him glue the broken lighthouse back together, and told him none of this was his fault. By night, I scanned documents, reconstructed timelines, reviewed county filings, and watched my family unravel through messages they thought made them look righteous. Mason sent, "Just sign whatever Dad needs. Don't make this bigger." My mother sent a good daughter would know when to stop. Brooke sent voice notes full of fake sobbing, then insults, then fake sobbing again. None of them apologized to Eli. Not once. On January 7th, 2 days before the closing, the injunction hearing happened by emergency video conference. Bankside claimed they were innocent purchasers. The title company claimed they relied on my father's documents. My father's attorney claimed I was estranged and motivated by revenge. Marisol shared the trust amendment, the forged consent, the full Christmas video, and the red ledger showing potential environmental issues under the repair shed. The judge did not look amused. The closing was frozen, pending investigation. The title insurer opened a fraud review. The bank suspended financing. The state environmental office requested records about the old fuel tanks. Bankside demanded my father indemnify them for misrepresentation. That night, my phone was quiet for the first time in weeks. No insults, no scripture screenshots from my mother, no posts from Brooke. Silence. I knew enough about claims to recognize that silence. It was not peace. It was the deep inhale before panic. 2 nights later, at 11:30 p.m., panic arrived. My phone started buzzing so violently on my nightstand that I thought an Amber Alert had gone out. I reached for it, half asleep, and saw my father's name. Then my mother's, then Brooke's, then Mason's. Missed calls stacked on the screen until the number stopped feeling real. 1729-46-68. Text messages came in faster than I could read them. Call me now. This is serious. You don't understand what you've done. Please. Chloe. Dad can't breathe. Mom is hysterical. Bankside pulled out. The bank froze everything. The state sent inspectors. Answer your phone. Then the voicemails appeared. Brooke was sobbing in one, screaming in another. Mason sounded terrified. My mother kept saying, "We're still your family." As if repetition could resurrect the word after she had stomped on my child's Christmas gift in the mud. My father's first voicemail was rage. His second was bargaining. His third was the one I saved in a separate folder. He said, "Chloe, listen. The marina accounts are locked. Bankside is demanding escrow for damages. The environmental people are asking about the old tanks. They say because you're named successor compliance trustee and because you work in maritime claims. You have to review the remediation plan or the court will appoint an outside receiver. If that happens, we lose operational control. We lose everything. I need you to call me back." He did not say sorry. He said need. People like my father often confuse the two. Across the hall, Eli slept with the repaired lighthouse on his dresser. He had painted a gold line over the crack because he said, "Broken things look stronger when you can see where they survived." I thought about that gold line while my family begged me to save the business they had tried to steal from him. I called Marisol. "Do not call them back emotionally," she said. "We respond in writing." "What do you want?" The question stopped me. 2 weeks earlier, I might have said I wanted an apology. I wanted my mother to hug Eli. I wanted my father to admit he had gone too far. But after the forged signature, the public lies, the threats, and the fake consent erasing my son, I understood that apologies without consequences are just another performance. I want control removed from my father. I said, I want Eli's interest protected. I want them to publicly correct what they said about us. I want the marina repaired legally, not sold secretly. And I want Brooke to take down every lie. By sunrise, Marisol had drafted terms for an emergency family settlement conference at Harper Landing. Not my parents' house, neutral ground. Public enough to prevent intimidation. Private enough to keep Eli out of the spectacle. My father refused at first. Then the bank warned that if the trust dispute and environmental risk were not stabilized, they would call the marina's operating line. Bankside threatened suit. The state scheduled an inspection. By noon, my father agreed. The meeting took place the next morning in the cold storage office overlooking the docks. I did not bring Eli. I brought Marisol, Walter Finch, and a court-appointed representative for Eli's interest. My father looked 10 years older than he had on Christmas. My mother wore no pearls. Brooke's eyes were swollen. Mason kept rubbing his hands together like he was washing off invisible grease. Nobody hugged me. Nobody asked about Eli. That helped. My father opened with, "This has gone far enough." Marisol closed her folder. "Mr. Harper, with respect. It has barely started." She laid out the consequences one by one. Forged consent could trigger criminal referral. Breach of trust could remove him as trustee. Environmental non-disclosure could expose the marina to fines. The developer could sue. The bank could freeze assets. The court could appoint a receiver to control every dock fee, fuel sale, lease, and repair invoice. My mother whispered, "Chloe, please." I remembered her crushing Eli's paper angel. "Please, what?" I asked. She swallowed. "Please, don't destroy your father." There it was. Not "please forgive us for hurting your son. Please protect the man who caused the fire from feeling heat." My father leaned forward. "You think you won because you found some old papers? This business fed you no. I said Grandpa's business fed us. You tried to sell it. Hide contamination. Forge my signature. Erase my child. And call it tradition." Brooke snapped. "You're enjoying this." I turned to her. "No. I enjoyed making Christmas ornaments with my son. I enjoyed believing for one stupid morning that his grandmother might love him more than her reputation. This is accountability." Mason finally spoke. "What do you want us to sign?" Marisol slid the terms across the table. My father would resign as sole trustee. A professional fiduciary would manage Harper Landing for 5 years with me serving as compliance co-trustee for environmental and insurance matters. Eli's descendant interest would be formally recognized. The Bankside sale would be canceled unless approved by court review and all required beneficiaries. When Eli reached legal age, Environmental testing would be funded from my father's personal distribution. Brooke would publish a full retraction using the complete Christmas video if necessary. My parents would issue a written apology to Eli, acknowledging that their conduct was cruel and that he had done nothing wrong. Mason would cooperate with document production. Legal fees would come from my father and Brooke personally. My father read the terms and laughed once without humor. "You want to humiliate me?" "No. I said you did that on a porch with neighbors watching. I want paperwork." His hand shook when he picked up the pen. The signing did not feel like victory at first. It felt quiet, almost surgical. My father signed his resignation as sole trustee. My mother signed the acknowledgement that Eli was a recognized descendant of Elias Harper. Brookie signed the retraction agreement with a face so pale I thought she might faint. Mason signed his cooperation statement and avoided everyone's eyes. When it was done, nobody clapped. No music swelled. Outside, the marina kept working the way it always had. Gulls crying, ropes knocking against masts, diesel engines coughing awake, water slapping the pilings under a gray January sky. That was the thing about real consequences. They did not arrive like fireworks. They arrived like locks clicking into place. Over the next month, the fallout spread through Beaufort in ways my family could not control. Bankside Coastal Development withdrew and filed a claim against my father for misrepresentation. The bank reduced his authority over marina accounts. The environmental inspection found old fuel contamination near the repair shed, exactly where my grandfather's red ledger said it would be. And because we disclosed it properly, the marina avoided the worst penalties. My father hated that most. The truth he had hidden became the thing that saved the business from total collapse. Brooke posted her retraction at 6 p.m. on a Friday, probably hoping fewer people would see it. They saw it anyway. My previous post about my sister and nephew was incomplete and misleading. She wrote, "They were not trespassing. My family's treatment of them on Christmas morning was wrong." Marisol made her add the sentence she fought hardest against. Eli Harper is a recognized member of this family and has a protected interest in the Harper Landing Trust. The comments were brutal, not because I encouraged anyone to attack her, but because people had watched her perform holiness for years while using cruelty as entertainment. Mrs. Talley never posted the full Christmas video publicly, and I am grateful. Eli did not need to become a viral wound, but the right people saw it. The court, the attorneys, the trustee, and eventually my parents' pastor, who called my mother in for what she described as a painful conversation. I did not ask for details. I had learned some rooms no longer required my presence. My father tried to meet with me alone 3 times. I refused. The 4th request came through Marisol properly with an agenda. We met in the marina office with the new fiduciary present. My father looked smaller without control wrapped around him. He said, "I handled things badly." I almost laughed. Badly was burning toast. Badly was forgetting a birthday. Badly was not forging your daughter's name and telling your grandson he was dead to the family. I said nothing. Silence forced him to continue. "I was under pressure," he said. The marina was struggling. Bankside offered enough to clear debts and set everyone up. "I thought if you got involved, you'd complicate things." "You mean I would read them?" I said. He looked away. Yes, it was the closest thing to honesty I had ever gotten from him. Then he said, quieter, "Your son didn't deserve what happened." My throat tightened despite everything. There are moments when the child inside you still wants the apology the adult knows is too late. I let that child feel it for one breath. Then I answered as Eli's mother. "No, he didn't. And you don't get access to him because you finally admitted the obvious. If Eli ever wants a relationship with you, it will happen slowly, safely, and on his terms, not yours." My father nodded, and I could tell he hated every word. Good growth that costs nothing is usually just performance. At home. Eli asked why people kept sending cards. Some were apologies from relatives who had believed Brooke's post. One was from my mother, written in careful handwriting, saying she was sorry for stepping on his angel and had no excuse. Eli read it twice, then put it in a drawer. "Do I have to forgive her?" he asked. I sat beside him on the floor. "No," I said. "Forgiveness is not homework. You don't owe it to anyone on a deadline." That spring, the professional trustee reopened the old bait shop as a youth Marine safety classroom on weekends, partly funded from the distributions my father lost during the settlement. I taught the first class on accident reports, life jackets, fuel safety, and why telling the truth matters even when adults are scared of consequences. Eli sat in the front row wearing a captain's hat 2 sizes too big. After class, he placed his repaired lighthouse on the windowsill. The gold line down the middle caught the afternoon sun. "It belongs here," he said, "so people know broken stuff can still shine." 2 weeks after my father threw me out, my family begged me to save what they had tried to steal. But the real ending was not that they begged. The real ending was that I stopped begging. I stopped begging to be included in rooms where love was conditional. I stopped begging cruel people to become gentle just because we shared blood. I stopped teaching my son that family means standing outside a locked door with gifts in your hands hoping someone will decide you are worthy. Family is not a last name on a marina sign. It is not a holiday photo, a trust document, a church pew, or a speech about tradition. Family is the person who protects your dignity when others try to turn your pain into entertainment. Family is truth, accountability, and love that does not require you to disappear. My father lost control of the trust. Brooke lost the perfect image she used as a weapon. My mother lost the comfort of pretending silence made her innocent. Mason lost the privilege of staying neutral while benefiting from harm. And Eli gained something no one could stomp into the mud: recognition, protection, and a mother who finally understood her own strength. If you are standing outside your own locked door, wondering why your family cannot love you without hurting you first, hear me clearly. You are not required to shrink so someone else can feel powerful. You are not selfish for protecting your child. You are not cruel for demanding truth. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away with your head high. Gather the evidence, and let consequences speak in a language your abusers finally understand. If you were Chloe, would you have signed the settlement, or would you have pushed for criminal charges? 2. Tell me what you would have done. And if this story hit close to home, share your own family lesson in the comments. Thank you for supporting our stories and watching until the end. Everything in this video is fictional and intended only for educational entertainment on reflection. We hope it reminds you that sometimes losing a relationship is the price of finally keeping your self-respect. What feels like a painful ending today may later become the decision that saved you from years of the same disappointment.